Yeah, so I was in Chicago at the time, but was telling me like his sister Kayla, she told me, she said that he had 3 surgeries, but he made it. He was supposed to have 3 surgeries, he made it through 2. He hopped off the bed after the second surgery and supposedly started fighting the nurse.
King Von's story just won't stay buried. Now there's talk that a nurse from that night is finally spilling what really went down during his last moments. And it's nothing like what people thought. You might remember when Von's cousin Balo first spoke out. Well, now this same nurse is breaking the silence and revealing exactly what happened in that hospital room. And trust, it's wilder than anyone ever imagined. Let's get into the hospital chaos that night. While Von was fighting for his life in that Atlanta ER, rumors started flying left and right. People close to him, including family and friends, were getting hit with all kinds of mixed up stories. At first, Von's team, including Caleb B, passed on word to Balo that Von had only been shot once and was holding on.
Like I said, Vonnie, he talking to me and Misi, telling us that Von good, he got shot 1 time, and this and that whole time he got shot 8 times, and I didn't even know.
Sounded like he was going to pull through. But behind the scenes, the truth was way darker. Von had been hit multiple times, and it wasn't looking good at all. Balo said he'll never forget when Von's sister Sky broke the news to him. That moment changed everything. The chaos around Von's condition didn't stop there. Balo was left spinning, trying to make sense of the hopeful updates he first got, compared to the gut-wrenching truth Sky dropped on him. Then came the cold, hard facts. The official word from the Atlanta police and hospital staff confirmed the worst. King Von had died from multiple gunshot wounds during that wild shootout. The full autopsy still hasn't been made public, but word on the street is that the injuries were brutal. Sources say he got hit in the right hand, chest, and most seriously, he took a fatal shot through the back. That one was a game changer. The bullets tore through vital organs, and even though the doctors fought to keep him alive, there was just too much internal bleeding. They couldn't stop it in time. The official report ruled it straight up. Death by gunshot wounds. No mention of anything like surgical issues or after effects, just straight gunfire. But since Von passed, Balo hasn't held back. He's been going off in interviews, especially the one with 16 showed him visuals, throwing out some wild claims about what really happened in that hospital room during Von's final moments. Balo dropped a wild claim. He said Von actually made it through 2 surgeries, but things took a dark turn when Von supposedly woke up and tried to swing on the hospital staff. According to Balo, that moment is what led to Von's death. He really believes Von could have survived if he had just stayed calm. But not everyone's buying it. Medical pros and fans online were quick to call it cap. They pointed out how anesthesia works, especially after serious surgery, and how Von's injuries were way too extreme, especially with the spinal damage he had. People said it's nearly impossible Von could have even moved, let alone started fighting. Folks recovering from that kind of trauma are usually sedated heavy and can't even lift a finger, let alone jump out of bed like Balo described. Even social media's been going in. On platforms like X, yeah, that's the new Twitter, people have been calling out the story, bringing up official reports that say Von got hit 5 times and was pronounced dead at 4:48 a.m. without ever waking up. So that whole he got up and fought thing, a lot of folks just ain't buying it. All these counterclaims actually match up more with what you'd expect, considering how bad Von's injuries really were. And let's keep it real. Balo's story, it's been shifting around since day one. In some of his earlier interviews, he admitted he was getting news about Von's condition in bits and pieces, and most of it was all over the place. First, he was told Von got shot once. Then, out of nowhere, it turned into 8 shots. At one point, he was hearing Von made it through surgery, only to find out later that Von didn't survive. Even Balo himself has said it was all confusion and mixed up info in those first few hours after the shooting. But there's another version out there too, and it came from someone claiming to be a nurse who was in the operating room that night. They dropped a comment on Reddit saying Von didn't make it because of massive blood loss. They said the bullets tore up multiple organs, the pancreas, spleen, and even the small bowel, and that kind of internal damage could have led to sepsis, making it impossible to save him. Even though that nurse's account sounds more realistic when it comes to gunshot trauma, it's still unconfirmed, and there's zero mention of Von getting up and scrapping with hospital staff. But what really keeps the mystery alive are all the other wild claims and theories that have blown up since Von's passing. Some fans started digging into supposed connections between Von's death and the deaths of other rappers like Mo3 and Young Dolph, pointing out weird patterns in the dates they died. Others even threw out ideas about the music industry being involved, hinting at things like ownership of masters being a motive. But let's be real, most of those theories don't have much to stand on and have been shut down by reliable sources. Then there's Von's own manager, Jameson Francois, better known as 100K-Track. He was there that night, caught up in the chaos, and even got shot himself. But in every interview he's done, he never once backed Belo's version of Von fighting in the hospital. Track's focus has always been on the actual shootout, not what happened after. That says a lot. Either he wasn't present in the hospital, or he just doesn't believe Belo's story at all. 100K-Track's version of events cuts off once Von was rushed to the hospital. That's where his story ends. Meanwhile, Belo's claim that Von started swinging on hospital staff has been making noise, especially in hip-hop blogs and across social media. But let's be real, it's just one angle, and it goes completely against what's in the official reports and what any real medical expert would expect after that kind of trauma. Now let's rewind to the night it all went down. The moment that flipped everything in the streets. At 3:20 a.m. on November 6th, 2020, the game lost a rising giant, and no one saw it coming. The chaos started when two groups, including Von and his people, ran into each other and started beefing. What started as words turned into straight-up war in seconds. According to 11 Alive News, the argument exploded into gunfire fast. Both sides started blasting. Two off-duty Atlanta cops working security at the scene jumped in, and a third officer on patrol nearby pulled up to help. But instead, things got even messier. More shots were fired in the confusion. When the gun smoke finally cleared, 3 people were gone. Among them was 26-year-old King Von and 34-year-old Mark Blackley. The streets were left in shock. 3 others, including Von's manager 100K-Track, got hit in the crossfire, but they lived to tell the tale. What makes this whole situation even messier is how many different versions of the story are out there about what really happened that night. According to Atlanta PD, Von most likely got hit during the first round of gunfire, before the cops even stepped in. And here's where it gets even wilder. Von wasn't taken away in an ambulance. He was rushed to the hospital in someone's personal ride. That one detail, the fact he wasn't transported by EMS, ended up becoming a major piece in trying to understand what really happened in his final moments. No sirens, no paramedics, just a desperate race against time. And it was Von's own guy, 100K-Track, who broke down exactly what went down in those moments before the chaos exploded. He said tension was building for almost 40 minutes before anyone pulled a trigger. That silence before the storm was the last calm moment King Von ever saw. Based on security footage and witness accounts, King Von walked straight up to Quando Rondo and swung first. No talking, just hands thrown right out the gate. But things spiraled instantly. That's when Timothy Leaks, aka Lil Tim, one of Quando's people, pulled up and let off shots in the middle of the fight. Von was one of several people hit in the madness. Bullets were flying everywhere. He said it was total chaos. Even 100K-Track, Von's own manager, ended up getting shot in the leg during the mayhem, bleeding, panicked, and stunned. It was a war zone in seconds. Von's cousin Belo wasn't there when it all jumped off. He got the heartbreaking call from Von's sister, Kayla B. At first, the info coming in was scattered and full of hope. She told him Von had only been hit once. But when Belo finally reached Kayla himself, she hit him with the real, and it crushed him. That first report, straight up false. What the doctors later found was way more serious than just one bullet. It was a whole different story. And it was bad. Belo said the info he was getting started flipping real fast. One minute it sounded hopeful, the next it was straight up tragic. As more details came out, it became clear just how bad Von's injuries really were. Medical reports confirmed it. Von had taken multiple shots, and some of those bullets hit vital organs. He was bleeding out inside, and even though he made it to the hospital still breathing, the damage was just too deep. The doctors couldn't pull him back from it. Right after the news broke, the conspiracy talk exploded. People started whispering about setups, saying something shady went down. They pointed out strange stuff like Von's security team being changed at the last minute, and even his ride not being the usual one. Belo's been especially loud about it. He's convinced something was off, claiming Von's regular bulletproof car got swapped for a regular vehicle that night. If true, that switch-up might have been a major factor in how fast things went left. Balo didn't hold back when he started questioning Von's security team. Like, how did they even let it get that far? A fight? Balo said, "You ain't even supposed to let him fight." In another interview, he flat out claimed Von was backdoored, that someone on the inside let it happen, because they was the hard. He made it sound like betrayal came from close. But here's the thing. None of those setup claims have been confirmed by official sources. No solid proof, just suspicions and street talk. And the legal case, the one against Timothy Leaks, aka Lul Tim, the man charged with shooting Von, got dismissed in 2023. Georgia's Stand Your Ground law cleared him, meaning the court decided there wasn't enough evidence to prove murder or any hidden plot behind the shooting. Still, while Von was being rushed to the hospital, bleeding and fighting for his life, his people were losing it. His family, his homies, and fans around the world were glued to their phones, praying for good news that never came. The first news that reached Von's people gave them a little hope, maybe too much. Balo remembered getting updates from Von's cousin, Vinny, and it sounded like things might be okay. But what was really happening inside that hospital was way more intense. A desperate fight to save Von's life that only came to light later. And then Balo dropped a wild version of events that raised serious questions about Von's final moments, a story that lit up the internet and fed into deeper drama. After Von passed, the days that followed were a blur of heartbreak, confusion, and the early signs of some messy family tension. What started as mourning quickly turned into something more, the kind of pressure that spills out in public. As loved ones pulled up to Atlanta to gather Von's belongings and support each other, the vibe was already shifting. People were grieving, but you could feel the cracks forming. Balo described stepping into Von's crib and walking into total chaos. Instead of peace, there was confusion, hurt, and the start of some serious behind-the-scenes beef. One of the biggest scandals that came out during this time involved Von's sister, Kayla B, and it's been causing waves ever since. Word is, she took key items from Von's crib, including hard drives packed with his unreleased music. Balo's been loud about it, calling her out in interviews and online. He said she didn't just grab clothes and personal stuff. We're talking designer gear like Von's drip and a Louis Vuitton suitcase. But the real controversy? Balo claims he saw her with his own eyes, snatching up those hard drives with unreleased tracks while she was on the phone with somebody. That detail raised a whole lot of eyebrows. Was it just family trying to hold on to memory, or was there something bigger going on behind the scenes? Balo didn't just focus on what Kayla took. It was how she did it that really set him off. In his eyes, the real issue was that she never checked in with Von's mom before grabbing those hard drives and other personal stuff. That move, Balo says, it crossed the line, and this situation has been a major spark in the ongoing family drama. And it didn't stop there. Balo even claimed that Kayla later handed those hard drives over to Lil Durk, Von's mentor and the boss of OTF. But let's be clear, that part hasn't been confirmed by anyone else. Then there's another name stirring the pot, Vonnie, also known as OTF Vinny. Balo says he's the son of Von's dad's best friend, and that he got involved in the mess too. Balo accused him of listing out Von's assets, but said none of that stuff ever made its way to Von's actual family. The talk around missing property and shady money moves still causing serious tension today. While all these claims sound wild, they're tough to fully prove without access to Von's financial records or official estate paperwork. Nobody really knows for sure what Von actually owned when he passed, but the family tension, that's been very real, and it goes way beyond just missing assets. One of the biggest rifts popped off between Balo and Kayla B. According to Balo, things started to fall apart right around Thanksgiving, not long after Von's death. That's when the energy between them shifted, and it never bounced back. Balo also said his relationship with Kayla hit a breaking point during that holiday, and from there, the back and forth only got worse. The drama didn't stay behind closed doors either. At different times, both Balo and Kayla B have gone online, firing shots, making bold statements about each other, and even about Von's legacy. The pain turned public, and the family cracks were on full display. All the public family drama has, at times, overshadowed the real convo, King Von's impact on the rap game, and the bigger questions around how he really died. And the story still isn't over. There are ongoing legal twists tied to his name. Timothy Leaks, aka Lul Tim, the man initially hit with a felony murder charge for Von's shooting, had those charges dropped in August 2023. Georgia's stand your ground law came into play, and just like that, the case was dismissed. But a lot of Von's fans weren't feeling it. That ruling sparked even more questions about what really happened that night outside the hookah lounge. Then in October 2024, things took another wild turn. The family of FBG Duck filed a wrongful death lawsuit. They named King Von's estate Lil Durk and OTF Records, accusing them of negligence and misconduct. That lawsuit stirred the pot big time, and just when people thought it couldn't get crazier, on October 24, 2024, 5 of Von's associates were charged in a murder-for-hire plot aimed at Quando Rondo in LA. The fallout from Von's life and death still shaking up the game. Back in August 2022, the streets were buzzing again, this time with news that Lil Durk had been arrested on charges tied to what many believed was get back for King Von's death. He was accused of helping orchestrate a hit on a rival rapper. That move showed just how far the ripple effects of Von's death had spread, not just through the hip-hop world, but deep into the streets. Through all the drama, Von's family, and especially Balo, have been doing what they can to keep his legacy alive. In an interview, Balo talked about upcoming projects dedicated to honoring Von's name, trying to make sure people remember who he was, not just how he died. Even as posthumous drops from Von keep hitting, his music hasn't missed a beat. His debut album, Welcome to O Block, dropped just a week before he passed, and it blew up. Fans kept streaming it heavy, showing love long after he was gone. And here's something that might catch folks off guard. Von's cousin shared a surprising detail about him. Turns out Von was more educated than people think. There was a side to him most never saw. That little-known fact about Von's education shows a whole different side of him, one that most people never got to see. Behind the street stories and the drill anthems, there was more to Von than just the image. He wasn't just a product of the streets. He was a thinker, a storyteller, and someone who had layers. King Von's legacy runs way deeper than all the chaos and controversy that followed his death. At just 26, he had already carved out a name for himself as one of the coldest storytellers in drill music. His bars weren't just lyrics, they were vivid, real-life tales from the heart of Chicago's O Block. His raw, unfiltered style that mixed with real emotion and street experience still hits hard today. Von's voice lives on through his music, inspiring new artists and keeping fans locked in all over the world. His impact still growing, his story far from over.